Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. Of course, we are in the midst of our first break from VGC here, as we have about a 5-6 week until the next event. We're already halfway through that, so don't worry. But hey, still plenty of talk about today. Of course, there's a little bit of VGC news, and of course, Pokemon Day is coming up, so we have so much to talk about with what we think that presents is going to be. My name is Sierra Dawn. I'm one of your co-hosts, and joining me, of course, my wonderful co-host, Joe Brown. But you're not going to be the only one that's on this podcast. We have another special guest coming up quite shortly.
Yes, Mochi Sierra. How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining us on another episode here. But the asking you shall receive, because one of the biggest questions we had when we had the Justin double feature was, where's Justin Tang? And you'll all be rewarded later in this episode because we finally have Justin Tang on OHKO. It's going to be a really fun time. I know everyone's been looking forward to it, so it should be really. I think it should be a pretty entertaining conversation we have with Justin.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to talk to him. Especially too, I think there's so many interesting things about his journey that I want to dive into. But that's for a little bit. We got some stuff to be talking about for us. Curse that Pokemon Presents is coming up, but first there is a couple of VGC announcements. I feel like announcements is a strong word. There's a reason we're leading with this, because we had a little sprinklings of a changings in VGC-ness, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's nothing like I wouldn't say announcements, but it is a part of the rules, so it looks like it is a new rule. I don't know if it's a rule change or rule adjustment, whatever terminology we want to use, but it's something that players are going to need preparation for, I guess, going forward is the best way to explain it. Like, I don't know if it's a new rule, but it's another preparation step a player has to participate in. Yeah,
so what we're talking about, it was announced today at the Utrecht. I think I'm saying that right. That sounded good when it rolled off my tongue, I'm not going to lie.
I'll go with it.
Yeah, at the special event, it was said today that you would have to be submitting your rental code for your team when you submit your list for the event. So anyone who hasn't quite been to a regional, or it's been a while, like you haven't been here since like open team sheets and all that, when you submit your list online, there is an optional box to put a rental. And I'm not going to lie, every regional I've gone to, I haven't filled it out because I'm just like, oh, I'm already running around like a chicken with a head cut off trying to get my team ready and together, and now I have to submit this list. Like, that is one too many steps. I haven't submitted it. And apparently, like, not too many people do, or maybe they do, I don't know. But round one at a regional, when they're handing out the team sheet, they also come around with a small piece of paper for everybody to write their rental code on. So before you even start the game, while you're waiting for the player announcements, you actually have to write your rental code down on the piece of paper, which even applies for those who already submitted their list online, from what I know. Like, they said that my opponent in the last event, I think it was Liverpool, had submitted their rental online, and they had to rewrite it down, and everybody has to go take that up to the hive. If there's 800 people competing, there is 800 players that are going to drop off that little slip, and then people have to submit their rental code. So they have now announced that when you are registering for the event and you submit your list, you have to actually put your rental there, which is like a small thing, but I think like for the overall how an event runs, I think it's pretty important. Like, it's a noticeable, like, hey, this was something that could have easily been changed, and they changed it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think this is something that was optional. Like, you're different. You said you didn't do it. When I played in Charlotte, I did create a rental of my team because I mentioned I was worried about my Switch's connection issues, because, I had the issue connecting at LAIC and connecting at NAIC. So I was like, I know that I have a chance with my 7-year-old Nintendo Switch that maybe internet goes bad on it. I'm going to make this rental code in case I have to use like a, generic Switch or whatever. So I was willing to do it even when it was optional. So I don't mind that much making it a mandatory aspect. I do wonder at like the top level what the players are going to say when they have the secret sauce and they don't get put on stream, so nobody gets to see their stats, their HP totals or whatever. But now, because that rental code exists, Like, are there ways to view it outside of the hive? You know what I mean? Like, does that information also get posted on Arcanine? You know, that's my first concern I would have as a player.
But you submit the team sheet, so they already have that information. Realistically, you think about it, at every level, like, people that work on these events, they have access to all that information, and like, it hasn't been used for bad. So
yeah, I'm talking about other players, not the staff. Like, will other players see the team rental and they text it to their friend, and their friend logs in onto Battle Stadium? Like, you know how nefarious people are, Sierra. Like, people
what do you think people are doing with the team code, though? Like, the team code's just going to the judges.
No. But you can't recreate the team. You see the team and the moves, right? When you see your opponent's team sheet that they give you, but you don't see the stats. Like, when somebody, like, we've done this before with rental codes, where people will use a rental code, play one game with it on Battle Stadium, and then just write down all 6 Pokemon stats to retroactively recreate what the EVs were. So I was just that's my only concern as a player, is if the rental code, since you have to submit it online now, is also going to be on the public information page. That would be my only concern.
No, because, like, if they wanted to, like, give public information, they already could have done that. And when you submit the rental, like, is the only thing that's changing, because submitting a rental isn't new. Like, you have to submit the rental regardless. It was just, I think they actually had somebody, like, having to manually input it for, like, all the missing, like, players, or, like, technically for everybody. But now, like, it's just submitted as part of the process that's mandatory. So, like, regardless, they had all the rentals, regardless, they have all the information. It's just, now you actually just do it when you submit the list, as opposed to the day of the event, which I think is more secure, because technically, like, if you're writing down your rental and you're getting it, people can peek over your shoulders, people can look at your paper. Like, I feel like that is actually, like, the worst offender out of the two of them, is actually having to write it down there in the hall in front of your opponent. Not that they can check at the moment, but, you know, there is people wandering, and there is people with cameras out. So
that's why, you know, we know the lengths that players have gone through in the history of this game to either find information or conceal information, right? On both ends of it. People were buying whole new 2DSs so that they couldn't be streamed, because you couldn't put it into the stream, you know, whatever.
Wait, that's actually really funny. I didn't know that.
It happened all the time when we got our Liberty Garden events, and we'd have locals, and we were doing grassroots regionals and stuff. People would play on 2DSs so that they couldn't be the bottom card, so you couldn't see their HP totals. You have players playing in other languages so that they don't get on stream, and so I don't think it is out of the realm of possibility, with how information hungry this community is, that someone could try to make this what we think is a positive thing with the rental codes. They could try to turn it nefarious.
No, but, like, what I'm saying is, like, the change then that you have to submit it with your list is good, because then you're not doing it at the event, which means It is a good thing overall, because then people can't be peaky little Andes and, like, looking and stuff, because you've already done that in the comfort of your hotel room, in the car on the way to the event, like any other time. So it is just a net positive. On the list of Pokemon announcements today, I guess this one technically is an announcement. They added a new regional that's going to be happening in Chile, so that is good to get more events outside of just NA, because that are sometimes lacking in other parts of the world. So I think that was happening in May.
Okay, yeah, I know LATAM notoriously is a lack of large events sometimes, depending on how their locations are chosen, or whichever tournament organizers are in charge. That they seem to get less regionals or in special events than some of the other regions, like North America and Europe. So anytime they add regionals or special events done in LATAM, I think it's a good thing, because it's better to give those players more CP, more representation at international events, and, you know, at the World Championship.
Yeah, and I'm just looking now. Thank you. I knew that Pablo Tablemon had tweeted out the date. The date is the 18th to 19th of May. So
you could go to Chile and then go to LA the next weekend.
There you go. There you go. If you want to, you know, travel the world, play some Pokemon, you're You're
I'm sure
all
there will be
set on that
people,
one.
you know, Pablo might be one of those people. I'm sure he travels all the time, so.
Hey, I have heard some crazy stories of people traveling. I know that we've had some crazy stories of traveling too, even just with Cassian. So players did the same thing. Like that whole I forget. Oh, I don't think you worked the was it Knoxville? I think it might have been
After
Knoxville.
Australia last year?
After
Nah,
Australia.
yeah. I wasn't
Yeah,
on it. I don't know how anybody did that.
brutal. I think it was me and Rose that both did that stretch, and like that was brutal as a caster. Do not get me wrong. There was players that did the same thing. It's just like, oh, you poor soul. You poor soul. Like, like that is like, whew, that is a tough one. So yeah, but hey, at least like Chile to LA is not like the end of the world. Like that one's, you know, time zone's not too bad. Like we're good.
It's not too different. It's not 17-hour flights or whatever.
With like the craziest time zone difference. No, it ain't gonna be that long. You know, Brazil's a long flight, but
don't you think about this, Sierra, that like roughly generally, let's say last week or this week, like this would have been the Oceania International Championship time, and then we're just vibing for 6 weeks?
Yeah, I definitely like I still don't understand how, I mean, I guess it's just how venue dates and all of that pans out. You know, there's a lot of inner workings on these things that I don't really understand. But when we have back-to-back events and then all of a sudden we have a long stretch, I think it was in total 5 weeks of not having an event, it feels kind of weird, especially I would have thought things would be slotted around a little bit more to have something here. Because this is where OCIC would be, right? So definitely kind of missing that right now. I'm not going to lie, on a very selfish aspect, I am enjoying being home because I was definitely traveling a lot for a little bit, but
missed your cats.
I miss my cats. I miss being able to just like walk on my treadmill and watch my stupid little Netflix shows and cook myself my stupid fancy breakfast.
Oh my god, dude, there are so many people that just straight up do not believe that that's what you eat for breakfast. I talked to multiple people that said there's no shot she makes that for breakfast every day. For breakfast.
Do they not hear I haven't meal prepped? Like, do I need to pull the containers out of my freezer?
I think you gotta post a photo for evidence.
I feel like I have posted
I think PG players are posting what they're cooking. We see that a lot, even with Justin Tang himself, which I guess he was cooking that in that photo. But other people are posting what they're cooking, so maybe you just gotta join in.
Yeah, I gotta find a picture and like post. Yeah, like because I don't understand how it's so hard for people to believe I meal prep. Like this is for the YouTube people out there, right? So if you're on YouTube and you can see the pictures, like,
well, there's meal prep, and then there's what you said you alleged that you do for breakfast, where you put like 16 different things into one meal, like you're Gordon Ramsay.
Because it's meal prepped. It's meal prepped. The turkeys, like the ground turkey and the sweet potatoes and like the onions and all that, that's all meal prepped, and it is individually portioned and it's frozen. So I wake up in the morning, I throw a little olive oil in the pan, and I go, oh, because it's like sat out, like I pull it out of the freezer the night before and I put it in the fridge. And then I throw that in the pan. And then when it gets a little crispy, I go, all right, crack 2 eggs, put the top on for a little bit, take it off, done. Voila.
I'll tell you, that's some Gordon Ramsay stuff right there.
That's like the same amount of time as it is to like same amount of effort, not amount of time, because you have to wait for the cook. Same amount of effort as it takes somebody to be like pouring themselves like a thing of cereal. So like I frankly just like don't understand. I don't understand. There's some haters out there. It's definitely way
easier to pour cereal into a bowl than do what you do for breakfast.
It's literally just dump it into a pan. The worst part is that I have to clean the pan.
I just put it right in the bowl. Just put my Cheerios in, put my milk in, and I go.
That's why it's the worst part. That is the worst part of it. I'm trying to find a picture. People don't believe me. Like look at this. See if it actually shows up.
Yeah, I see it.
Look, I even have the fresh fruit there.
For our audio audience, she does have the fresh fruit in its own bowl. She's got 2 sunny side up eggs, a bunch of,
and that's sweet potatoes, onions, and ground turkey.
I didn't even see the turkey in there. It all looks
it's
like
it's the brown bits with the orange. But yeah, okay. Oh, and then here is My meal prepped freezer also
For
everyone.
audio listeners, we're looking at
all
Sierra's
the individually portioned things. Everything is dated.
They're in Tupperware things in the freezer, so can confirm.
Yeah, like I don't understand how people like. You know what? Like
the conspiracy theorists have been proven wrong. We have photo evidence of it.
Photo evidence. That's all I'm saying. I'm just. You know what? Do you know what I had for a lunch today as well?
What?
There was this sweet beef and green bean thing that was also frozen that I just threw over some rice. So it was, perfect.
Easy. I wish I was creative as you, because I had I don't know if you have them in Canada. It's a Chipotle-esque store restaurant called Bubba Coos. I don't know if you have them, but it's essentially you go down the line, put your burrito or bowl, choose your meat, choose your rice, choose your beans. But it's closer to my house than Chipotle is, so that was my lunch.
That's not a bad lunch. I don't understand how there's people telling you I don't believe this here eats that.
I think it's just a lot of effort for breakfast was what people were saying, because down here a lot of times you would just eat cereal or just 2 eggs. You wouldn't do all the turkey and sweet potato stuff.
You gotta get the nutrients. Get the protein.
You just throw 2 eggs on the pan. I'm great with eggs. I can make a mean omelet. Okay, I can make.
That's more effort than what I'm doing.
In there. Yours is more effort pre-pan than just throwing eggs in and making an omelet.
It's
your preparation. It's like you're rental teaming your breakfast. You know what I mean? You're preparing it before it at the same time.
It's a great VGC analogy. Great VG analogy.
Home,
We're bringing it back home. All right, yeah, we didn't need to get on the breakfast thing again. I just can't believe people just did not. Whatever. Last Pokemon announcement. But EUIC registration is, I think it's going up either the time that we're recording this, Wednesday, or it'll be going live on Thursday. ICs, the registration definitely can go right away. So if you are interested in going and haven't registered, definitely look at that sooner rather than later. That is definitely a super, super important thing, because once the spots are gone, they are gone. So yeah.
If you're stuck at work, tell your boss, your grandma's calling you and you have to take this important message, and then just go stand outside and refresh the website.
Why do that? Just everyone's entitled to a bathroom break. Just go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but what if you just went to the bathroom beforehand? Like, you just really had to go. I'm trying to come up with more options in case you already used the bathroom.
Tell them that you really have to sneeze, like, really hard. I don't want to bother anybody with my sneezing. I thought I was going to think of something really clever, but apparently that wasn't it. But yeah, so make sure registration for that. ICs do go fast. And yet again, I do want to reiterate, like, ICs are so much fun. Like, if anyone's only gone to a regional before, ICs are a whole different level. So if you're, like, kind of on the fence, or especially if you're kind of nearby, like, EUIC, obviously, for NA, that definitely is a little bit of a journey, so understandable. But anyone who is, like, short travel distance away, like, couple hours by train, car, etc., like, you should be going. Like, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then, obviously, East Coast NA players obviously have a huge advantage. If you live out in California, it's a little more annoying to get to London than it is if you're in LA or Orlando, or if you're in New York or Orlando, right? Most places have straight shots to London, and the time is easier. So I think it's always tough, like, if you choose like one international event that you want to go to, and say you already went to LAIC when you had a 10-hour flight, like, then you got to pay to go to London, and then of course New Orleans is not going to be cheap, right? Because it's a kind of a destination city for people to vacation. So it's a lot of money to play this game at the top level, but it's worth it.
And what costs even more money is EUIC will have a pop-up Pokemon Center. So I think they did do that for...
They didn't have it at LATAM, no. It was only
I was
EUIC
thinking last
NAIC.
year. I was thinking last year EUIC. I couldn't remember.
They did, yeah. Because they had the video with Rose and somebody else doing the EUIC pop-up stand.
Oh, right, where then she goes around. I was trying to remember if that was EUIC or if that was an NAIC. So I was just
NAIC
like,
was a different one. Yeah, they had two.
Okay,
They had two
okay.
videos. One was like just Rose and other casters, and I think Shelby might have been there. I can't remember. It was like a downtime
Yeah.
commercial that they showed.
Shelby was
And then-
in that one because Joe Ugarte watched that and he's like, wow, you guys inflection your words the same way or something. He was like, what the heck is this? You guys talk the same. And I'm like, what is that? So I know Shelby's in that one.
Yeah, and then NA was where they had the two kids, and it was it Gabby,
Oh, right.
Gabby and or no Gabby
Rose
hosted.
and Spraggles.
Yeah, and so Gabby hosted, and it was Rose versus Spraggles, and they had to get as much as they could in 60 seconds. That video was so adorable.
I want to do videos like that. I want to do videos like that. I don't know what I would do, but no, just give me like
I think
a basket
we know what
of
you would do.
plushies.
You would trash the 4-year-old for their decisions that they made on the free stuff. All you do is trash people, Sierra.
4-year-old, I'm gonna grab as much stuff as I can and throw it in her cart.
Or you go, oh, the Charmander backpack? Really? Jaden? Like, that's what you're gonna say.
Charmander's fine as long as she's not picking Squirtle. Like, okay.
Yeah, exactly my point.
Hey, you gotta level with them out the gate, right? Or else they're gonna grow up and be like Armarouge Ceruledge fans. So
Wow.
can't have that.
hey, Ceruledge is a top 10 most popular Pokemon in Japan. Did you see that poll a couple months ago?
Yeah,
It was
apparently
like-
enough kids weren't told that their Pokemon choices were bad. I'm just kidding.
Bro, Tinkaton was 5th. Chandelure was 3. Do you know anybody besides Daz where Chandelure is one of their top 3 Pokemon?
Yeah, it's very interesting seeing like who's like favorite is what, because it really is like, oh, like anything can be anyone's favorite, right? It's kind of odd. They did like what was everybody's like favorite Pokemon by like region, and there was one region where it was top voted as Weedle. I was like, there's over 1,000 Pokemon, and the collective agreement for this country is Weedle.
Weedle? That's crazy.
It was super good. It was super good. But in typical Sierra and Joe Round fashion, we got way too distracted talking about other stuff. We are still going to be talking about the Pokemon Presents Pokemon Day, all of that stuff. But we're going to bring on Justin Tang to get his thoughts on things as well. So be right back. And we are back, and we have Justin Tang with us. Also, a furry little friend there. First, how are you? Tell us more about the little friend.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Yeah, so he was barking a little bit before this, so I just brought him up here to kind of just shut him up a little bit. So he's doing fine now.
What's his name?
Sammy.
Sammy, that's
so,
a good
yeah.
dog name.
Yeah. He's good sometimes when he's not barking, but
He's nice and chill now. He wanted to be included.
Exactly. Yeah.
You knew there was a camera. You wanted to give the YouTube audience a little treat. You know?
Yes, exactly.
Having 2 guests on.
Okay. So right away, we're throwing you into the deep end with things here, Tang, because as usual, me and Joe Brown got distracted while introing the podcast, and we were going to talk about Pokemon Day stuff, and we didn't get the opportunity to. But then thought, hey, this is actually perfect to bring you on and talk about it as well, because for anyone listening, Pokemon Day is coming up, which does mean that there is a Pokemon Presents where we get all the news of what's incoming. So that'd be fun to talk about our predictions in comparison to kind of what we wish is going to be going on and happening. So we have any takers on like who we think, like who's going to drop the first thing of like, this is what I think is going to happen.
I'll let the guests go first. What are you thinking is going to happen?
I think a lot of people are saying this, but like something with black and white, like they've been hitting the Unova stuff for a while. Like in Legends, they had the train guy, and then they had even in the DLC, they had a lot of the Unova based things, and I think like there's someone's kid in there too. So like, wouldn't be surprised if we get like a black and white either remake or a third one or something related to that. Just because I feel like they've been hinting it for a while, the last 2 games. So we'll see.
It's definitely like in the games, I'm always like, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean too much because like the Blueberry Academy was in Unova, so it was kind of like, oh, you know, it kind of checks out. But what I think is interesting is, first off, we're about that time on like the Pokemon life cycle, but I think it was the official Pokemon page, maybe it was Play Pokemon, but they were tweeting a lot of things like around New York and like in the States of like kind of like little promo things. which I think that is super interesting in all of it to try. And I'm trying to find any of it right now, but yeah,
They
they've
also had
been
the
posting.
Zekrom GIF that everybody went crazy for.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
Where
Yeah, they posted that.
Pokemon, apparently they were tweeting, like Cerebi said, they were tweeting other legendaries in GIFs, but people started paying attention when they did the Zekrom one. Where, oh, Gen 5 confirmed, you know. I think that's probably like one of the worst parts of the Pokemon audience to me is like, oh, Hoenn remakes confirmed, Sinnoh remakes confirmed. You know what remake? Yeah, where you been the last 20 years? Yes, that is how it works. Like we know that they're eventually going to come. You don't have to reply to every single tweet saying Unova remakes confirmed. Like
yeah. People be a little bit extra sometimes on Twitter, you know.
No, we get it. We get hype with the remix, but But I think like what's interesting in talking about the remakes is the last generation remake that we got was Gen 4, EDSP. That was with a different studio, and that was also not very well received amongst the Pokemon audience. And I mean, it is like, you know, the audience, like, it's always been the meme that Pokemon fans will complain about anything, but I kind of think there was a lot of things that were warranted about those remakes, because that feels like the worst iteration of remakes that we've gotten.
Yeah.
Inarguably. Yeah, for sure. It's not every other game. I called it when they announced it. I was like, this is wrong. This is just not what it should be. Fire Red and Leaf Green was a Gen 3 version of Gen 1. Heart Gold Soul Silver was a Gen 4 version of Gen 2. Oras was a Gen 6 version of Gen 3. And then we get to what many people, even statistics, you know, using the data and everything, many people argue is the greatest generation of Pokemon of all time. And we don't even remake Platinum. We remake Diamond and Pearl, which had the fire Pokemon issues and all things. Like, at least just remake Platinum. And like, it was like I said at the time, everyone called me crazy. We have mutual friends, Sierra, that were like, "No, you're wrong. It's great. They're being true. They're making a true remake, bro." Like, I don't want a true remake. I want a updated version of the old game. So if we get Black and White and it's chibi and it's like just like Black and White, I'm not going to be happy. But if we get an Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire version of Black and White, I'm going to be amped.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. Like, it was kind of lackluster. They didn't add anything new for the most part from it, besides the chibi forums of the people were kind of funny. I saw an image online of it was like Alder, and he was just a little chibi, and people were like freaking out, like, "Oh my god, if they do this to Black and White's over." Because that would be the funniest thing they did it, but at the same time not, because I don't know, like the art style was like it was okay, but like besides that, I don't remember the new games last gen being any great for BDSP. It was just basically the same copy and paste. There wasn't like a whole lot going for it besides just the new art, and there was, like I said, there's no updated version like Oras we had like the megas and stuff, and this it was just why play this when I could play Diamond and Pearl previously on the DS. So it's like,
yeah, it's like the Pokemon followed you, which was cool, but they also kind of looked dumb in comparison to like you had Let's Go Pikachu Eevee, where like you could have something follow you and it's actually like kind of the proper size, and then BDSP it's like this tiny little Gyarados following you in the same amount of space that you would have a Piplup following you, which was kind of goofy. And even like the ideas that they were like trying to do like something a little bit new or like better, like I remember like it was all the rage at first. You'd go into the underground area and you'd mine for a little bit, and everyone was like super about that, and you would get these statues and it seemed like it was cool, and then it was like, oh, this is actually like a pretty half-baked idea. There was all those dens in the bottom where they had a bunch of Pokemon, but it also kind of seemed like a half-baked idea. Like they just didn't like about things. Like I feel like Black and White remakes would be cool, but I'm worried if it gets that treatment, it's going to be a huge letdown, because the original, even if Black and White weren't my favorite generation of Pokemon, I actually do have a lot of respect for how much work was put into those games. There's so many little like Easter eggs. There's so many like different little events. Like there's so much to those games, and if they get the same treatment as BDSP, I think that's actually going to be a huge letdown.
Yeah. It's like a fan favorite. So like I think even after like you said before, like Gen 4 like one of the quote unquote best gens, and then they remake the worst version of it, not even the updated one, and it was just a downgrade from the previous. So if they downgrade another fan favorite, then it's like, all right, no more remakes.
It's like, what are we even doing here?
At that point, no more. The other option,
Yeah.
like, so everybody always brings up either a Legends Johto or Legends Hoenn game as the next Legends Arceus style, but like you do a Unova version. But like, what if it wasn't like prehistoric times, like thousands of years ago, like the Hisui region? Like, what if it's like 1800s New York? With the like Industrial Revolution and a whole bunch of steel and horse and carriage, and also we're not like in the year 500 like Hisui was or whatever, in the year 1000 like it was. What if we're like the 1800s and you get like the creations of the Industrial Revolution with Pokeballs and other types of things, and how Pokemon help create the future of technology? I think that would be cool.
I feel like you're talking about like a fan game at this point. Like, I don't disagree that that's cool, but I feel like that's a little much for like what we've seen trend-wise with Pokemon.
Yeah, for Pokemon standards, that is a little bit will be surprising to see, but that's a really cool idea. I really do mess with that. But maybe they'll listen to you. they watch this, you take the idea, they write this down. Yeah.
Something that is interesting, though, guiding the conversation to a potential of Gen 2 being included in something somewhere, is when they posted like the announcement that there was going to be a presenter or whatever, that was tagged on YouTube under Gold and Silver for the game. Because on YouTube, you can actually tag something with a game. Could be automated, could be an oversight, whatever. That's interesting. But it is kind of like there's been a couple of thoughts about Johto in general. It has been a long time since there has been anything Johto related, and there's two different directions that we could get something potentially Johto related. First is the like Legends Arceus kind of style. A lot of people think that it would be something like a Johto or something potentially next. There is also Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. A lot of conversation about potentially continuing this series. And that would be next. I see the look on his face. It doesn't look good.
I don't know. I actually never played it before, but I've seen footage. I've seen gameplay. It's just not my cup of tea. I don't know. Like it's a cool game. Like you co-op. Like that's kind of cool. I remember seeing that. Like that was probably the one niche I saw that was kind of nice about it. But besides that, it's like I don't know. Are
you one of those Pokemon players that if you can't be competitive about it, it's not quite up your wheelhouse?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I mainly play this game for competitive. I mean, I think most people do, especially if you're doing VGC. But like, I don't know. I never played Let's Go, so maybe I'm a little biased. Maybe I'm just a hater. But yeah, that's just my take on it. And oh my god, sorry.
Sammy left and Sammy decided to cause havoc.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You're good.
So I had a unique experience where I was just like Justin when Let's Go came out. I'm like, this isn't competitive, blah 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 blah. But then like when I played Let's Go, I had Let's Go Pikachu. And when I played it, and when I understood, all right, there is no competitive aspect of it whatsoever. There's no abilities. I don't have to worry about new Pokemon and what they're, what you had to think of. What's Golden Go going to be? What's Palafin going to be? What's Armarouge? Like when you're playing the game in Scarlet and Violet, you thought, all right, these are cool new Pokemon, but also how am I going to use these competitively? Just take that out of the brain. Just have fun playing Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And I actually had a really fun time with it because they had really fun animations and cinematic cutscenes and stuff. And it was like, it was really well animated. Like, I think the art style was way better than BDSP. Like, ages better than BDSP's art style was, even though they came out similar. And when you take the competitive brain out of it and just have fun playing Pokemon again, like, it was a really fun game. I do wonder if the novelty of the no wild battles and you can only catch, with the throwing motion and, you can only battle trainers and stuff. I wonder if that novelty would wear off. So I hope if they are going to make another Let's Go, that you can battle again instead of just throwing Pokeballs at full health Pokemon, because it's just so antithetical to how I play Pokemon. Like, I get them all into the red, I'll paralyze them or put them to sleep, and then I try to catch it. And Go, you just took that aspect of Pokemon catching out of the game.
Right.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like you hit on a lot of the feelings that I had about like the Let's Go series really well. Like if you take the competitive aspect out of it, and I feel like as well, which this is hard to do for anyone who's been a long-standing fan of the franchise. I feel like if you take expectations and prior experiences out of your head and then play this game, it is such a good game. I think when we're on the heels of like Pokemon eras like Black and White, that there was like this difficulty mode and things got more difficult, and you get games that are more and more difficult and more steps, to have a game that's so dialed back just kind of seemed lazy to a lot of people. But I actually do agree that like there are so many well-designed things about this game. The cutscenes, like you said, the cutscenes, like the storytelling in this game, it is an old story. It's Gen 1. We know this story. The Lavender Town, the Cubone's like mother ghost thing, like that animated scene, I bawled my eyes out for like 10 minutes and like
Bro,
ugly
I got emotional
crying,
at the SSN.
bawling.
I was literally on the like just with how beautifully animated the SSN, like when you get on and the music and like you're on a Pokemon journey with and Pikachu's right there next to me, and like I was like welling up. And something that I've done for 25 years, but seeing it from 2D to the 3D in a cinematic, like having that experience was just, it was awesome.
It was so cool. And like I do agree, I didn't like the catching mechanics. That is like the one thing I would love to change that, and I'd love to re-add like abilities or held items. Just like add a little bit more to it, and I actually think it'd be so enjoyable. But like even your partner Pokemon like running along beside you, I think it was done like almost like the best in that game. Like it was done really, really well. How there's even some Pokemon when you threw them out in the wild, you would actually be riding like on them. Like if it was like a Charizard, you'd actually be riding on the Charizard, so you could be flying over water and stuff. Like there are so many cool elements to this game. Like Tang, you got to go back and like try it. Like just like one day when you're like, I don't want to think. I've had enough of VGC. Like
yeah, okay.
just go and
thinking.
all expectations out the window. Just like blissfully play some Pokemon, and it's actually just such a cute, wholesome experience.
You know, yeah, after I was talking, I feel really bad for what I said. I feel like I'm just hating for no reason. I'm just sitting back like, oh, it's all emotional, it's all this. And I'm like, man, wow, I'm so cruel. Didn't even give
a lot of people feel
game
the
a
way
chance.
you did, though.
But yeah, maybe one day, I'll play it. I don't know, like, I guess I'm just too competitive because like I feel like sometimes nowadays I find it so hard to play a Pokemon game. Like, just think about it. It's like when I was doing the DLC, I was like, I'm gonna get my own team in game. I'm not gonna use my old Pokemon. I just use level 100 like Specs Chiyu. I heat waved through the entire DLC and I won. That was that's what I did. Like stuff like that. It's like I turn off my brain when it comes to like Pokemon story or Pokemon details. I just kind of like go through it so I can progress to the actual things I compete for. That sometimes I just forget about the small things. So I gotta work on that, I guess. But yeah.
What's nice about Let's Go Pikachu Eevee, and all of it, it's a pretty short game.
Yeah,
which
okay.
that is also can be criticized by a lot of people, but it actually is really easy to get through. Where like you can bot through the game, but then you're getting to the parts of the game that are enjoyable. So like you're getting to things like the Elite, or you're getting to things like those like cinematic scenes and stuff, which is really cool. Also, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee did it best with finding Chinese in the wild, just in terms of like the pure hype. You turn around the corner, there's just like a shiny that's popped up there, and it's like, oh my god, like shiny hunting could have done better, but like the hype that you'd get from exploring the game was cool.
Okay. I gotta play it now. Y'all just hyping up too much.
There's nothing wrong, like from your perspective of being a competitive player, because like I said, I was like that too, and I still am at its core. Like I still really prefer games for their Pokemon for its competitive aspect. But I think Let's Go, if they do announce some Johto Let's Go game, which I would be skeptical of, but if it does come in the presents, like the entertainment from it is like, if you're a competitive player, that's fine. This game's not for you. The same way that Mystery Dungeon's not for me, but Sierra likes it, or I like Pokemon Snap, but somebody else doesn't like Pokemon Snap, right? So they're like, just because one Pokemon game's not your style, your cup of tea, like it's not the end of the world. You don't have to play every Pokemon game.
Yeah.
But you
Wait, actually, Justin, I do have a question, because you're a youngster. What was your first Pokemon game?
My first, I think it was Fire Red or Leaf Green, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure which came out first. I also had like Emerald at the time too. It was which one came out first I had, and then I was playing both of them at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, but I
Because
liked Emerald the best when I was growing up, though.
Because
So yeah.
to me, my thing I want more than Unova remakes, the Let's Go sequel, or the thing I want more than anything else, Sierra, is I want Gen 1 games on the Nintendo Switch. I want them in the Nintendo package. We have the TCG game, right? We got Super Metroid and all the Mario games, and we can't have red, blue, and yellow on the Switch. Like, I want them to announce that on Pokemon Day so badly, because I would love to play yellow on my Switch.
I think we need just more than that. I do have a DS that has like yellow, red, and blue loaded up. I don't think those games aged well. I'm just saying. But I feel like all of the older games, especially once we're in this era where like getting a copy of an older game is so much money.
Right.
Add all of them, or like at least up to a good point. Like I don't realistically like we got up to Crystal. I don't understand why we didn't add Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, you know? Yeah. I guess the understanding was obviously we moved away from the DS to the Switch, but since we have like this Nintendo Switch, it has like the Nintendo 64 games. It doesn't seem like we're ever going back to a strictly handheld, because the Switch is the handheld and TV mode. We have the Nintendo 64 TV mode, so next realistically should be, hey, the Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS store that has these older games, but they didn't announce anything at the Nintendo Direct that just happened yesterday, and I think that it would be a Nintendo first announcement because that is a whole new client for it, unless they have just a Pokemon specific thing. So I am doubtful of it, but I do think that is so cool and so necessary, especially with us moving away from like the eShop is closed down. If you don't already have Pokemon Bank, you are hooped. You can't actually get those older games from a DS anymore, and there's no connectivity for anything DS related except for Pokemon Bank now. So that's going to be done one day. We need to find something new to go forward with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, there are what is it? There are Game Boy Advance games on the Switch though, like Fire Emblem 7, or what's just called Fire Emblem in North America. So like they do, I think Golden Sun's also on there. So they have the technology, quote unquote, like
to do it.
There are Game Boy games currently on the Switch. So like maybe that's like the difference between Nintendo and Pokemon, is that like Nintendo doesn't announce that so that Pokemon has something to announce, like, because they need to tell us something, and unless like, and to us, like, we care like if they tell us the world states during this presentation, right? That's what we're going to care about. But there's 20 million people that play Pokemon games. Like, not all 20 million of them are going to care about the world states and stuff. So you got to feed those other fans something else.
Yeah. What I want to know from this, we've already heard what you think that we're going to get, Tang, with the Unova remakes. I want to know, like, your wish list, you know, especially as someone who cares more about competitive. Like, we all had our wish lists. Like, I wish list for Pokemon's, like, Snap remake forever. Every single direct, and I was being told, Sarah, it's never going to happen. And it happened, you know? But it was always my wish list, even if it seemed impossible. I want to know yours.
My wish list? I don't know. I didn't even, like, I haven't really paid attention to, like, a lot of the... I didn't even know Pokemon Day was coming up to recently, so I haven't really thought about it. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Like, I guess I wish that, I guess competitively, maybe, the new game has either no gimmick or the gimmick's good. Because I like Terra. I like Terra. Terra's cool right now, but like if it is like a Unova remake, I'm curious on like how they would approach it. If they're like because the gimmick back then was just gems, right? So like
gems.
Gems. So like I wonder if gems are still there, but like I wonder if like they have any like special like traits if they do the remake with that again, or if they like keep like some of the old mechanics like we talked about before. Like Oras was just an upgraded version of like Gen 3, and they had megas and stuff. So like if they keep things like terrestrialization, for example, that'd be really interesting, because they haven't done that in a while, like keeping a mechanic, because Dynamax is a one-time thing, and megas were a thing for a while. But like I'm curious to see if Terra sticks around. That's actually one thing I'm curious about the next game.
I feel like they could, with the whole, like, they've set it up with the Blueberry Academy being in Unova, and then explaining how they got terrestrialization in a part of the world that wasn't Paldea. Like, they could realistically, like, they've set the stage lore-wise. They could stick with Terra.
Yeah, because I like Terra. I'm a little biased, but Terra's fun. I'm also fine with no gimmick, too. But, like, I'm curious to see like how they approach it, because like every time, like I feel like nowadays it's like you have Dynamax, you have Megas, you have Terra, you have Z-moves, but it's like we haven't had like all in a while in a bit, or if it's just gonna stick to one or go to like a whole new one. Like we got rid of Dynamax and moved on. So just curious about that.
I think that was also one of the downfalls of BDSP, which there were many, but that the lack of competitive, because like we kept on Sword and Shield, where the prior generations we played the new competitive circuit on the new remake. We played it on ORS. We played it on on Heart Gold and Soul Silver, right? So I guess they had like the kind of the video game thing back then. Gen 4 is kind of a weird area, so I don't want to say that. But basically, like we played Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Like we didn't just stay on X and Y where we did in Sword and Shield. We didn't go over to it, and that's because they didn't have the gimmick. They didn't put Dynamax into BDSP. You could have played, from what I heard, people that played like VGC on the ladder in BDSP. Like it was fun. It felt like going back to old school, back to 2008 before the power creep and all the stuff kicked in. So like, I wonder what a Gen 5 game would be now if we don't have Terra. Like, but then at the same time, if we have terrestrialization and your Hydreigon could be one of 18 different types like it was in Series A, and there's only 150 Pokemon in Black and White, I kind of wonder if that is a desirable format. I guess we'd have to see how it works out. And Terra Ghost, Gothitelle, and everything like that.
Yeah.
I do wonder how it would work out.
Right.
I feel like it's whether we get competitive on a remake, I think really depends on the game, because realistically, if we had competitive in BDSP, I think it just would have killed the competitive scene. Like realistically, like some people had fun with it, but it was super half-baked, looked kind of and I think realistically it would have been fun for a little bit because people were sick of Dynamax. And then it was like, oh, this is fresh, this is new. And then it would have lost its appeal really fast, especially when we have 3 years on like the current cycle of game. Do you imagine playing VGC on BDSP for 3 years?
Well, it just would have been one. It just would have been one.
But like even like that's just, I don't know, man. So if they do like a full like Game Freak treatment of a remake and we have like an ORAS type remake, I'd be super okay with like going in that direction. But it really just depends. And like from my knowledge, I don't really think Game Freak has expanded their studio too much, because it always has been an issue too, and where there was the issue last time with them giving BDSP up to a different studio, is I think it was more so they didn't actually have the capabilities of handling the remake, because they were working on Legends Arceus and they were working on Scarlet and Violet at the same time.
Yeah.
So if they are doing a new Legends game as well as working on whatever gen of Pokemon is next, like the remake's going to be handed off to someone else, or it's going to be half-baked, or we're actually just not getting a new Legends Arceus or a new Let's Go, and we're only focusing on the two things, which doesn't seem reasonable considering the direction Pokemon's been going in, unless the new generation is going to be like a love child of like Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus. So I feel like there's so many kind of questions of like how VGC would look that really just depends on how they want to be like going about the future.
Yeah, I think we're all in the dark right now. I think the only thing we can hope for is that a game will get announced, because even if it's not a remake, right? It could be a new Detective Pikachu or a new Pokemon Snap or something like that. I think there will be a game at minimum that gets announced, because why would you have this presentation if you don't have anything? And then I would hopefully expect that we get, because also BDSP was announced during Pokemon Day, however many years ago when it came out. But I would expect we get the World Championship dates, because I believe we got that last year, right? Where Chris Brown was in the Pokemon Presents and talks about Yokohama. It might have been a special case because it was Yokohama and it was Japan. So I don't know if they're going to do it again for an NA World Championship, but I would love if Chris Brown shows up again and we get the World States.
I didn't even know Chris Brown showed up for this one.
Where you been, Justin?
I don't know. I swear I watched it, but I don't remember that part. I don't remember Chris Brown.
It was quick hit.
Okay.
I'd be willing to bet that we get the World States, because like even if it's like, oh wow, Yokohama's like the big one, like they can't just be like, oh well, this year's a small one, that you're just like anti-hyping your own world championships. Like you kind of got to do it now. Plus, like it's like if they're wanting to bring more attention to the game, they're wanting to bring more eyes to the broadcast, they're wanting to like have higher participation. Like they have to say something, right? So
Hawaii is also not that small. I mean, it's a small place, but it's like everyone talks about wanting to go to Hawaii. It's a
big
Hawaii,
destination. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big destination. It's like the vacation spot or honeymoon spot people talk about. So it's like, wouldn't say it's small.
And like every year of VGC and Pokemon in general is bigger than the last one, which means theoretically every world championship is bigger than the last one. So yeah, sure, we're not in Japan, but like the game is bigger than it was last year. All of our registration's higher than it was last year, minus the whole Horisand incident at the beginning of the year. But
no.
but we're past that now. So so now we're the biggest the game has been.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
Just a little flashback for the VGC airs, but
Pure was scary. No pure. No Horisand.
Nobody understands. But there's so much that we could speculate about with the Pokemon Presents, but of course that's not why we brought Justin onto the podcast. We did it to say that we've now gotten 3 Justins on the podcast. I'm just kidding. But
I saw that comment.
Yeah. Did you think about it when we had Burns and Karis on? Were you like, I'm a Justin?
I thought about it for a second, and I read the comment. I'm like, wait a minute, yeah, they're spitting. And they're like, where am I? You have the double Justin. It makes sense. It's okay. I forgive you guys now.
You can only have so many Justins on at once.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
now you don't have to share. You can have all the Justin spotlight to yourself.
I'll take it.
Well, you just have to share the spotlight with Pokemon Day, but sorry about that one. But
okay.
To dive into things, where do we want to start, Joe Brown? You want to start with this one?
I want to start.
We're making this all about you now, Justin. So get ready.
This is all about you. I got to start with your friend in the background with Pancham.
Yeah.
How on earth is Pancham your favorite Pokemon? How did this happen? Because if you gave me, there's 1,000 Pokemon. If you gave me 600 guesses, I don't think I would ever have said Pancham.
I just really like pandas. I don't know. And Pancham's like the closest thing. It is a panda. So yeah, that's literally it. It's that simple. I've always liked pandas when I was growing up. We have a zoo by here, and they used to have a bunch of pandas, and I don't think they're there anymore. But I always liked them, and I just feel like a huge just liking pandas phase. Like I don't have them now, but like at my mom's place, like I have a bunch of panda decor in my room, and like just stuffed pandas and everything. So then Pancham was only the natural response into finding a favorite Pokemon because it's a panda. So when you drop the X and Y, I was like, oh my God.
You're a competitive guy. You love a competitive. I'm not playing Let's Go. I'm not playing as well.
Yeah.
But then Pangoro is not competitive in the slightest. So
that is true. But I mean, Pangoro shares the same type as Urshifu. So it's like they go hand in hand,
we're stretching.
Okay,
no, they're both bears.
It's not budget or Urshifu. It's clearance sale, going out of business sale. Urshifu.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like for a favorite Pokemon, it doesn't have to be something competitive viable. Like I know, when Toller was on here, he likes Swalot. Swalot is a no offense. I think Swalot's cool, but competitively, when was the last time you saw a Swalot?
That's fair.
Being here, so it's I feel like a lot of competitive players and the same thing. It's most people or even James Evans with the Skiplup, right? Like that guy.
This
that
Skiploom.
Guy. Skiploom. My fault.
Yeah.
My fault.
Fake fan. I'm just kidding.
Even Karis with Slow King, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of mons. I mean, Slow King is a little bit more viable, but kind of. But
loses to Pangoro, you know.
Lose to Pangoro. Bad mon. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like for your favorite mon doesn't have to be super competitive as long as it's cute. So yeah.
All right, we're getting real deep with this next question. What's your second favorite Pokemon?
Ooh. Oh man.
It's always all about the Pancham, for you now. A lot of the branding, you always is there, but
you're right. I have a lot of plushes. I usually bring an extra plush. Sometimes I'm extra. Sometimes I bring a lot, and sometimes it's just like Pancham and another. I guess my second best is our favorite. That's hard. I mean, I guess I gotta do it for the people, like Palafin.
That's what I was gonna say. I was going to
say it's for the people. It's for me. He's always been there. So, yeah, Palafin. I mean, it's new gen. But
he's
cool.
always been there for 12 for 14 months of my life. He's always been there.
14 months of my life. He's always a reminder when people everyone's like, oh man, where's Palafin at? I'm like, dude, it's like Urshifu from the game. It's like I can't bring Falcon back.
You
Like
can't do it.
yeah, but like yeah, I mean, like besides him being like comparatively cool at the time, like I don't know, he's also cool. Like he has the big hero form and then like the little baby civilian form. I think Falcon's cute. I got a big plush I brought to San Antonio a while back with it. So yeah, I like Falcon.
Now this is the perfect segue into the actual getting deep into the
Oh,
interview
no.
here. So realistically, in terms of competitiveness, you are quite newer to the game. Like we've talked to a lot of people who have been here for like 10 plus years that
Yeah.
have won world championships before. I'm sure you even played the game, right?
Yep.
And I know that I've gotten to talk to you like on broadcast quite a bit about things, but we're just kind of gonna erase a little bit of that because we're on a podcast, so it's fresh slate now.
Yep,
But like, how long have you been playing competitively, and when did you decide that you actually wanted to play like competitive, like showing up?
Yeah. I guess competitively. Well, I've always been like sort of competitive, but like not in the double scene or VGC. Like before this, like I was mostly just doing single stuff. So like I was just like playing down Pokemon Showdown or whatever, just doing all that. And then from there, it wasn't till like I didn't get into doubles till I think COVID. When COVID hit, I don't know what happened. Like I just went for like a huge phase of just like I started getting like on my YouTube feed like Cybertron, Wolf, and people, and they were just playing doubles. I'm like, this is cool, and I tried playing it myself. I wasn't that good. It maybe took me like a year to get good at least like at building or just stealing teams, and then that was during the Sword and Shield era. So like I played a little bit, like I think it was like Series 6 or whatever, and then I played it for a bit, and then I really liked Series 10 and Series 9. I think that's why I played the most in. And then by the time the double shifter came out, I didn't like that. I wasn't a huge fan, so I didn't really want to compete because there was something I probably could have done, and I think it was the Jersey regional, New Jersey
Or, like
regional.
Secaucus?
Yeah, Secaucus, and that was like I'm local enough. That's like a 3-4 hour drive. And I'm like, well, maybe I consider it. And then I'm like, I hate this format, so I'm not gonna do that. So saved it for Knoxville. And how I decided to compete was actually because of my friend Nick, who just made finals of Charlotte a while back. So it was him and a few other people I met through the community. And I actually before I started competing, like I met them through like it's like a draft league server online, and that's kind of how that's actually draft was a huge part of how I got into the game even more competitively, especially for doubles, just because I was for some reason really good at that. Like I was really good at drafting teams and playing it, and people were like, "Oh yeah, you're pretty good at draft. You should compete." Actually, I'm like, "Oh yeah, maybe." And he brought it up, and we found out we were all living pretty locally in the area, which was really convenient. So we carpooled, and then because of him and a few other friends, I was motivated enough to go to Knoxville, and that's how I competed. That's really it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like when you first burst onto the scene last year, what I saw a lot of conversation about was that like it was your first regional, right? So it was your first physical event that you attended and paid $70 for. Yeah. But you were highly competitive and highly skilled online. And one of the things that I saw from people saying, like you were like a draft league god, like you were. Oh, people in the know, quote unquote, were not surprised that you performed so well at the beginning of your career because you were such an online menace.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. I didn't realize it even spread that far because I feel like the draft leagues I was in, they were somewhat big, but they weren't like I feel like not many people knew about draft, right? I feel like when your average VGC player, they're just playing the game, you're the story, whatever. They know the circuit, but not many people actually look into draft leagues. So that's actually kind of cool to see that a lot of people kind of know I came from draft, and a lot of the roots and the people I met through draft, and I think the skills do translate over a little bit, just because in draft sometimes you can use like a really weird mon, or strats, make reads and such, and I think that translate over pretty well because I know how to use like I drafted like a bunch of Pokemon over my year of kind of just playing draft before I kind of retired it. I do want to come back one day, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's somebody listening out there. If you want to make a new doubles draft league, you got somebody sign up.
Yeah.
Maybe Sierra will break it out too. She can play Wolf again.
Ooh, yeah, maybe.
Yo, no, there's no Dracozolt. I can't play any draft leagues right now.
No.
not until he's back. Not until he's back. But with your breakout performance then at Knoxville last year, like you have such a unique path in comparison to so many other people that played this game, because there's a lot of people that will grind the game for a while and go around, do events, and maybe they'll do pretty decent at some, but it takes a while to get that accomplishment. I mean, even like Chuppa, who's an extremely skilled player, it took forever to actually get like a title, right? And then you come out of nowhere and get this title, like almost like it's nothing. So then like, how do you then like kind of look at going forward, having already accomplished like not the biggest thing, because the biggest would be like the IC win and the Worlds win, but the third biggest thing you could do in this game and the best thing you could do at an event? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, where do I go from there? Just because I had one of the best seasons anyone could ask for last year. Won my first event, top 16 my next, and then won my third, and then top 8 that went after. And from there, I had a really big falling out. I was actually talking to someone. It's like, man, you could just quit there and you would just like remain like a legend. I top cut 3 or 4 of my events and won 2 of them. That would have been insane. And from there, I had a really dry streak, because I feel like it happens to everyone. Like eventually, because we mentioned like people like Chuppa, and people like Chuppa's extremely consistent, but like sometimes in every person's career, you have a bad event. I was actually reading, I think Alberto posted a really good like season report when he was starting out, and he also had a really good start as well. He didn't win his first and all, but he was doing consistently well. And there was a certain time when he just went 6-3, 6-3, and just wasn't competing as well. And I kind of had that dry streak for it was Fresno into NIC in Pittsburgh, and I guess Worlds if you count that. So it was just a awful dry streak, and I'm like, man, well, maybe I should just quit the game early. Where do I go from there? I was so good. What happened? And then I came out my slump, and I guess where I come from there is just I don't know where I come from there exactly, but I think I had a certain mindset at the time that was kind of hindering my my play, and I guess like just my thinking in the game. I guess when you have that high of doing so well, your standards are so high. So I went in every event thinking I was invincible. I was that guy. I could do it again. And obviously you cannot do that again. Not everyone goes in winning every event. Sure, some people are super consistent. Like Wolf is a good example. Last year, I think he day 2'd every event. His worst performance was a top 16. But then again, Wolf has been playing this game since like 10 years ago, right? And this was my first year. So obviously, like I didn't have that, like I don't have that experience enough where I can probably continue to do that. But as the more I play, the more I kind of learn. And then by Peoria, I break my bad streak. I get top 16. And then from there, I've had one of the most consistent seasons, I think, again. Sure, I haven't won again this season, but I've had 3 top cuts out of, three top cuts out of the 5 day 2s I've had this season, which felt pretty good. But where I got from there, I've been always stopping that top 8, which has been kind of bitter, just because it's like, of course, I always want to win. That's a goal for a lot of people. So stopping at top 8 recently has kind of hurt, but at the same time, it's like I've had a few good talks with people. It's like, well, again, you can't win them all, and you're capable to do it again, but it will slowly come. So what comes next is breaking that top 8 again from a regional at either the IC or Worlds, and that's what I can do next. Really, honestly, my main goal right now is to break that top 8 curse I've had this season. I don't have to win again. I kind of want another medal at least, like maybe top 8. Like I could at least get the top 4, the semifinalists. So I'm tired of just getting that mat. I'm like, I'm actually really sick of it. I was telling my friends, I'm like, bro, I've had them all stacked in my room because I'm just sick of the top 8 mats. They're just there. So it's like, if I can just maybe not get that, I don't have to win again. Exactly. Just like maybe get at least a top 4, and then like if I get them all, that'd be cool. Like I get a top 4, and then also have a breakout season at IC. I think that's what I really want, because that's what I want to do from here. I want a good performance at IC and Worlds, because last year I scrubbed out, especially Worlds. I didn't do as well, but I lost my win in at NIC, and that was pretty sad because I don't think I choked a lot that day. I think I was in a easy day 2 position. I just gave it away. My schedule was tough too, but it's like I know I can compete at that higher level because I've done it before, but I want to prove it to myself again. And starting off the IC, my next event is UIC. So where I go from there is I want to at least day 2. I don't have to win that one, but if I can, that would be insane. So yeah, that's what I do from there.
I think what's so interesting about you specifically, Justin, is like as the newcomer, as the the new kid on the block, and just winning right away, and it was almost like universally everybody backed you, which is something that we don't see a lot in either sports or esports. Like just to let you know, like everybody backstage loves you. Like, we have members on production that, like, they come up to us, like, when I'm working in production, they're like, oh, you see this? And they'll show, like, you're like 7-1, like, they're like, Tang Gang 7-1. They're like, one of my production friends are like, no, Justin lost round 1. Like, you know, like,
they round, he does check.
Yeah. So literally everybody loves you, and I think it's such a unique thing because you're like the new guy, and it doesn't happen a lot. Like, for traditional sports fans, apologies for anyone that's not a sports fan, but like, you look at like LeBron versus Jordan, everyone hates LeBron because he's trying to be the best, and then like Mike Trout versus Mickey Mantle, no, he's not as good. Or for Sierra, Connor McDavid, no, he's not as good as Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky's the best, right? Like, and I think that usually happens. It happens in esports, happens in Melee when new Melee players come, right? Or new Street Fighter players. He's not better than this guy or whatever. But everybody got on the Tang Gang train right away. And so, like, why do you think, like, you could argue if we do a Twitch chat poll and the 4 matches are Wolf versus someone, Aaron versus someone, Tang versus someone, Ugarte versus someone, you could very much win that stream community choice match. So, like, why do you? I absolutely think Justin could win that
Wolf.
100%.
I
100% think you
if I was
could.
facing Wolf, maybe, but
No. I 100% think you have a chance.
I appreciate it.
So, like, did you notice the community corralling behind you immediately from your success? And what do you think is the reason that so many people are so willing and so interested in rooting for you at events?
Yeah. I've given it some thought. I think it has to do a lot with, I mean, I came out of nowhere, and I think the story, like, winning the first event, it's only happened once. I think it was Wolf, but it was during a time where the game wasn't as big as it is now. So if I'm coming in, I'm winning my first event, and it's live, and I'm doing it in front of all these people, and the game is, I think Scarlet Mile is a great time to, like, come in and do it because this game is as big as it's been I mean, it's the biggest it's been. That's what I mean. So I'm coming in, it's my first event, and everyone's seeing that. So, and I do it, like, not flawlessly, but I do in a sense where it was, I guess, entertaining enough, and people, I guess, just liked me from there, which is cool. I really do appreciate it. I don't know exactly why, but I think it has to do a lot with that, just because it's just a breakout performance, and I was the first to do it actually that season. Now you have, like, Abdullah, and you have the Dortmund, also was a first time regional winner, but I think it has a lot to do because I did it first, and I mean, just being able to say that, like, I did it, and I have all the support. It does mean a lot, and I think it just, my story is just kind of funny. Like, I came in, like, in my interview, like, my mom didn't even know I was there, and I was just, like, doing all that. Like, I think it was just, like, just the story behind it was just really funny, and I think people just gravitated from there, just because, I don't know if it was relatable or anything like that, just because coming in as a quote-unquote newer player and having low expectations, and I think winning it all is also kind of a big thing, because it's like, there's actually so many stories, because, like, I think after Knoxville at Charlotte, a few weeks after that, people were like, yeah, man, you inspired me to go to my first regional, and I'm like, that's actually, like, insane. It's really cool, and I've gotten a lot of support online through DMs or just like, because every now and then I would scroll through and someone would message me or just at me, and it's just really cool to see that support. And yeah, I think it has to do a lot with that. It's just kind of that relatability, and just kind of coming out of nowhere and just winning it all. It's just a insane story for anyone to kind of do. So I think that's kind of why.
So I'm curious with, like, because obviously everyone rallied behind you, and you instantly got put out to this huge platform of people. I mean, from then on, all eyes were on you. You were highlighted on the broadcast end of things. We highlight our players to watch. We're actively keeping an eye on you. Everybody's keeping an eye on you. Understandably so. You come out of nowhere and win your first event, but that is so much more attention than a lot of people ever get into this game. And that also does mean that any, like, failures that you have, I mean, you're talking about when things kind of, you hit that that bad streak kind of near the tail end of the season, NAIC Worlds, and that's also broadcasted for everyone to see, right? Has that ever gotten to you, or do you ever wish that you were just a little bit more, like, kind of under the radar in the game, where you weren't getting that sort of, like, mass attention?
Every now and then, I feel like whatever you don't perform as well, people have not the nicest thing to say. Sometimes, like, obviously, like, I've been told, like, well, no one really cares, man, and that's true for the most part. Not people care, but I've heard stories, like, some people have said, it's like, oh man, maybe this guy isn't as good as he is. And at the time, I thought the same thing, because if I am going from top cut win to top cut to a 6-3 for 3 events straight, then, well, yeah, I would agree with you. And I really thought for a period of time I was washed, and sometimes, like, people just saying that stuff, like, it kind of just, it wasn't just the people saying that, like, I was saying that too. So it's like, it goes both ways. And yeah, sometimes I wish there wasn't really that spotlight, so I can just play, and if I go 6-3, no one would care. I would care, but, like, at least, that's like one less person. And also, like, for during that time, like, every 6-3, like, I got a lot of support from my parents, right? But my dad, he would be like, what happened? He's like, well, why aren't you winning anymore? And I'm like, well, one, it's not that easy to win.
It's
two,
not that
like,
simple, Dad.
yeah. So it's like that's also another reason. It's like, if no one knew, like, if people just kind of knew that it wasn't as easy, because, like, maybe I made it look easy, but it was never easy. So, like, I think that's what people don't understand sometimes. And I think for the most part, it's more a mental thing. Like, I think I've gotten better at it now, where, like, I don't really care as much sometimes as people think. But there's one instance, actually, like, it happened recently. Like, I lost a round at some regional, and the guy, sometimes when you lose to someone, obviously it's really cool, because they're like, oh man, I'm a big fan and stuff, but then they just keep talking. I was like, man, I can't believe it won versus this, because you're a now quote unquote name. It's like they do it over and over again. It's a bit much. I'm like, man, I can't believe either. But it's
Yeah, I kind of wish you didn't win either.
Yeah. But, like, sometimes some people just kind of, like, rub it in, really, because you are either a name. It's like, oh, you're losing round 1, or I beat Justin Tang, like, super easily 2-0. It's like, man, sometimes it's like, I think, like, the mindset when I went to Knoxville was, I didn't care if you're a big name. Like, it was cool, but I tell this, like, every new player, like, how do I not get that fear when I'm facing a new person? Just treat like any other game. Like, who cares you're facing me or Wolf or anyone, right? We're just people. So, like, sometimes people put the person up to that pedestal, and whenever that person doesn't do whatever they want, or does do a certain thing, then it gets, like, to people's heads, and it just changes the point of view of everything. So that's kind of just my thought process on that. So yeah.
Yeah, we've had other players talk about, like, like, kind of like a notch in their belt, like, they can check off, I beat top player. Like, I feel it's not that
exactly.
it's not that they won the round. It's that they beat a top player.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, having a candid conversation with you, I do root for you a lot. We're always checking. We're always refreshing standings. Oh, how's Justin doing? Oh no, he lost early. Hopefully he can win out and get on stream or something like that. But there was one time I was not rooting for you to win, and I believe that was I think it was natural round 14 when you played our friend Len Duel, fellow commentator. Len Duel.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest, Justin. I wanted you to fall flat on your face, but you're too good. You're too good.
I'm sorry.
You beat the Tyranitar.
No, I was actually reading a YouTube comment on it. It's like, oh, I wish Len Duel and Justin Tang was streamed. And our match was really funny. It was a good set. Like, I barely won game 1, and in game 2, he leads Tyranitar Lycan Rock. He double rocks me 2 turns in a row, and I just forfeit. So it's like, if that was on stream, I'm like, man, yeah, you're gonna see me get double rocks like much. I forfeit game 2, and it was a good set though. Like, it was a 3-game set. I guess, like, I don't know, like, at that point I was playing for whatever, like, I was locked for cut, but just having that flawless, I've never been flawless in day 2 before, so I was like, if I get this is gonna feel pretty good for cut. It's gonna be confidence booster, so that's why I played my outs. I played my best. So sorry, I love it.
I forgive you. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. But my follow up to that point is, how do you play against unconventional teams like Lens using T-Tar and Garchomp and Corviknight and stuff? So, like, if you face random Pokemon, someone's randomly got a Tinkaton or something like that. Like, how do you handle those matchups that you're not as well practiced against compared to, like, Urshifu Tornadoes teams or, in things like that? How do you handle those unconventional matchups?
That's a good question, because I feel like I've done this a lot. I faced a lot of unconventional teams on stream or through like, I think a good thing about that is, like, to bring up is, like, whenever I face Nick Navarre, he's always using something unconventional. So how do I come up with a game plan versus Lily Cole at the time, where it wasn't popular, or versus Solo Dozo and Ting Lu? Like, how do I beat that? I have no idea. I honestly just kind of come up with it on the fly, or I kind of think about, like, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's like I had to identify my win condition, I feel. Like, even if it's, like, off standard. Every weird team, quote unquote weird team, has a win condition. Like, what's the scariest part of their team? So like, I think I was actually rewatching my set with Nick a while back, so I kind of can remember it. So like, Fort Wayne, his most defensive piece was the Doza Ting Lu, but he had win conditions with either the Choice Band Dragonite or the Spectacle Dango, and those were all kind of annoying for me if I didn't position well. So I'd identify, well, my Dragapult was actually really good versus that because it could hit both his team. I could position well with the Mungus and such. So like figuring out like what does best versus their strongest pieces, I think, is kind of how I do it, even if it's weird. And also acknowledging the fact that, well, Yondozo and Tinglu is not unorthodox, but it actually checks a lot of my team if I'm not careful. And that's why like my defensive piece of the Mungus can spore it or do whatever. It's also really good. Or I can U-turn out on the super effective Tinglu. It's like things like that. I don't know. It's like the small things. And that's kind of how I approach it versus like, I guess, weirder teams or teams I never face against. It's like, I mean, every team has a weakness and every team has an out. So just kind of figuring out like what's good versus me and what's good versus them is kind of what I do versus those stuff. So yeah.
Fair. That's fair. And what is like the weirdest like thing that you've encountered playing against?
Weirdest.
One that you literally just look at it and you're like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, round 2, I faced a local of mine. She's pretty cool. But I've heard my friend play it before, but I didn't know her sets. But when we faced, it was like a Trick Room Life Orb Masquerada. This was Knoxville this year. It was a Trick Room No Protect Masquerada, and it was free attacks Life Orb, and there was a Cinderace, I think it was Wide Lens, and it was Wise Lens Fluttermane with a Bascaliver, and I think there's a Whimsicott. So it was really weird.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really weird. I was like, man, what do I do versus this? So that's probably the weirdest I faced recently. I can't really think of much else besides, I guess, like my sets of Nick. Nick has always bring cool teams. But like, yeah, that's I think that's like the weirdest recent thing I faced. So yeah.
I'd even believe you if you said it was like the weirdest thing you faced in general.
Yeah.
Yo, like three attack jerky masquerades goes crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect, so yeah.
Dude, pour one out for Masquerada. Only existed for 1 month of competitive VGC.
Oh, it's back apparently.
It's back in round 2.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That, like, I just think it's so. I think what's one of the interesting things with your story, right? Is like you win, you get superstardom right away. Everybody loves Justin Tang. Huge story, and then immediately I think like you start offering coaching, and then you get your own coaching group, and all your friends, like the people are like, oh, I got Justin Tang coaching, then I top cut my Premier Challenger also. Like, so how did the coaching aspect come up for you? Because usually it is a lot of players like Chupa's like, I've been playing the game for 12 years and I've cut this and done this and done this, and I can help you too, right? Where for you, it was like, I just started playing the game and I can also coach you how to play it well. Like, how did that conversation happen?
Yeah, so I think I started coaching. It was something after Fort Wayne. I'm pretty sure. It was before. I think it was before Hartford. I started actually the week of Hartford. So a lot of people who were going to Hartford were actually coming to me. So like it was a good time starting then. But that wasn't exactly why. It was just kind of convenient. But I felt like I just had a different point of view to the game where. Like, because a lot of people knew my story going in the first time. So like a lot of times, a lot of my like I guess people that come for me for coaching are newer players. Sometimes I get occasionally the experienced player every now and then, and they like I think that started happening more and more as it's been a year since I'm playing the game now, basically in this circuit. So I'm getting more different players as we go, like from seniors to juniors to masters of any kind. And mostly started like this like I had different perspective, but also because like I've only been starting for a year, I think my pricing has been okay for it because oftentimes like I think Chuppa and people who have years experience can afford to charge that extra 40-50, right? So I try to find like a mid ground for my standards and for people's standards and my standards, and just because like I've started a year, I have 2 regional wins, which is good. So like having like I think like as people probably progress, they can charge that coaching even more. Like we're bringing up more people, like just upping that price. But because I've only been playing for a year, I think it's only fair. Like I can do that 30 range, and also doing the coaching helps out with like funding for my trips and also for school. So that's why I also started that. Like that's kind of how I followed that process of, well, maybe I can have a decent price for people to kind of come at me and they know my story and they know how I can help them. And I think I've been pretty good at it. So that's kind of how it started.
So now I want to talk about kind of like the experience that you've had in the game in comparison to the veterans, because it's been talked about in the past weeks as well, that someone that has been in the game for a while, that there is fundamentals that can kind of like carry you through. Maybe not every format's the same, but like obviously you train up, you get better, and you might have to relearn a couple of things.
Yeah.
But then when we see people come into the scene that, I mean, you were playing online and stuff too, but like since COVID, that's still like pretty new to things, right? And I feel like you can have a different perspective and not quite be more open-minded. I don't necessarily think that's the how I want to be wording it, but you kind of have a little bit of a different outlook in the game than maybe somebody who has been playing for a longer time that's like, oh, well, this has to be good, or this has to be the way, right? Like, do you find that yourself too, even when you're like team building, talking with other people that have been around longer in comparison to like players that are also newer, like yourself, Semper, etc.?
Like what I have to offer compared to like other people, like when I'm talking
Kind of
to
just
like other players.
your mindset being a newer player in comparison to the players that have been here like for a lot longer than you, kind of like with how you look at the game, team building, and like approaching it.
Yeah, I guess a lot like I think when it comes to like my thought process when talking to other players, it's usually like there's a different there's like certain plays I do. Like sometimes I think about like I don't know. It's not always the same. Like I think me and Semper Abdullah, like we have a very similar mindset on how we approach on team building and play. Like we actually did like a voice chat recently. It was like us and like there's a few other players like I think Jesse and Neil were there, and we were talking, and like me and Semper, somehow we were like linked. We knew like this is the most optimal play you can do, and it's just like the other people didn't see it, but like for some like when talking like other people, it's like it's either our plays are the same, and sometimes when it comes to like team building, I don't really build my own teams all the time, because as of recently I've just been kind of ripping off teams from people because I haven't had like I think an example is like San Antonio. Like I picked up a team the week of the Rage Drago team, and then for Knoxville I picked up a team that did well at Liverpool, and then all that. But like sometimes like I approach team building differently when I start working with Justin Tang. I think our minds actually really click well. Like there's certain people I clicked well. It's most of that group of people that work Shielding, like the Game Beatles Corp we work with, like Shuppa, Lex, Marcus, all those people. We all work together. And me and Shielding somehow just kind of click when we talk about teams. Like we share similar ideas. Like we like the same Pokemon, I guess. Like when we read this Toronto Rain team, he cooked with the rain. And I'm like, this is really cool. Why don't you make this a Salmon Scarf Tailwind, which is like some draft league tech I did a while back. And I'm like, this might cook. And he's like, yeah, it's actually kind of good. I'm like, wait, what? You serious? And from there we kind of just build. And I don't know. Like I feel like my team building and my plays, it clicks more with a certain. I found the right group. I think last year I didn't really. I had my prep was good. I was talking to a lot of people, but like as of recently, I found like I think like the right prep group, because a lot of people have different prep groups, and I think this one's my main one for a reason, because all our ideas kind of click more. Like we share similar ideas and we come up with similar game plans. Like we work on like even when we work on game plans and how to play a game, we write like documents, like what line works best versus let's say this Tornadus Goldango team, etc. So like we identify the same game plans together. Like Sheelings tells me like I test a lot. I play a lot of Pokemon, so like I come up with the game plans a lot for him, or he helps out too. But usually I'm the one that finds the line because I do the testing a lot more. So like that's kind of how I approach like that testing and building people, other players. So yeah.
Yeah, I was 100% going to ask about Xiliang and like the Tang gang and how it's growing, and that three Tang regional championships last season. Right? And, like,
that was insane.
I was gonna ask, like, a chicken and the egg, like, did you become friends off of like the common and last? Oh, look at what we have in common, and then played Pokemon, or then did you play Pokemon and just happen to have the same last name? Because it is a cute. Obviously, it doesn't matter, but it is a cute story that like two friends that are with the last name Tang are building together and bringing the same team to events and like dominating with it.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. Like when Xiliang won Hartford, I don't think I've done him before, so when I saw him, I'm like, wait, this is actually really funny. Like, we should know the same last name. So then I followed him, and we didn't really get really close to. I think it was Worlds. I joined the group of it was me, Marcus, Shilang, Chunjun, and a few other people. There's a bunch of other people, and we were super lost for Worlds. It was a whole new format, and we just built together. And we took it was Lex's team, and we worked on together, and That's how I kind of first worked with Sheelang. And then from there, I was invited to join their team building group, like the more serious one of all the players at Gambito. And then, yeah, we became friends from there. And then I didn't use his Pittsburgh team because I didn't like it. So then I went 6-3. And then I picked up the team. We worked together for Peoria. And then I break my day 2 curse. So Sheelang always likes to joke that he's the reason why I'm good again. So like he broke my curse. So he's a really fun guy. I'm really glad I got to get to know him more and build with him just because he's really good at the game and he's a great guy. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And all right. It seems a little early in the episode for this, but I want to make sure we properly dive into this because I feel like this could be a question that we would realistically ask you, Justin. So we're going to be bringing up our question of the week. This one coming from Geb. What's one piece of common advice in VGC that you actually think does more harm than good in the long term? And what would you kind of replace it with? So
that's a great question.
It's a fantastic question. And yeah, I would love to know kind of perspectives on this. There was a lot of discussion around it, but Justin, you're the guest, so guess first.
So like common advice that is harmful?
Like, the common advice given to newer players. People think it is a good thing
to suggest to new players, but it's actually harmful to their growth.
If you need a moment to think, I already know mine.
I kind of have it. Like
you got okay.
Yeah. So like I do coaching, but some people like when they go into coach, like some people like would offer coaching, right? Like or suggest coaching, and the people they suggest to are people who sometimes think that the coaching will automatically give that top cut or break their 6-3 curse. I cannot guarantee that. So if I'm giving advice to someone and they're coming to me, it's like, how do I not go 6-3? Well, that's not gonna happen overnight. Not everyone can top cut the regional right away. Because a lot of that comes down to luck, and it comes down to your prep process overall. So I feel like if you go into coaching expecting that, that is more harmful than anything. And I offer coaching, but like I will still offer it, but I will never guarantee the person that you are gonna day 2 off my coaching. I'll try my best to help you prep as much as possible, whatever you need to. But no one can really guarantee like that guarantee win off just that service. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Especially too, like coaching, I mean, I don't know yours in particular, but a lot of people it's like per hour. So someone might get like 1 hour, 2 hours going up to an event, but like realistically, like the prep and stuff that you need going into an event too, like
it's multiple hours. Yeah.
You can't just do that in one sit down coaching session, no matter how good that coaching session is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's that like that people maybe like selfishly because they just want to say they made day 2 or something, like they might not have the best interest in improving as a player if they come to you or a coach with that mentality. If their mentality is to not go 6-3 instead of the mentality, like, no offense, but I'm part of the X9 Academy. All right, that's my coach. So
no worries. Yeah,
when I get coaching, I'm not getting coaching from Ugarte to help me go day 2 or whatever. I'm getting coaching to make sure that I have like a good team for the event that is well rounded, and I know my lines. I know what strategies to look out for, which leads are best, which Pokemon are going to give me the biggest trouble with these 6 Pokemon. Like I don't go to him saying like, help me build a team that's going to make me day 2 because my skills as a player are not as good as his are. So he could build a team that he would day 2 with. But like, if he gives me his Torkoal, King Gambit, Portland team, like I'm not going to day 2 with that, and he won a regional with it.
Right.
No, it's definitely a lot of layers to that. I think mine, instead of like quite saying my advice, is I actually want to talk about what was kind of built up, because advice that I normally give to newer VGC players is to use rentals, use Pokepace and stuff, and try those out before you get into team building. So my reasoning behind that is if you are coming in as a brand new player and don't know how to play the game, you are not going to make optimal like EVs on your Pokemon. You're not going to have optimal moves. You don't know what's out there realistically, right? Mm-hmm. So if you just dive into team building, not understanding anything about the meta, not understanding mechanics, not understanding that you're then going to struggle to team build, you're going to lose, and you're going to get out. If you have a stronger will than most, then maybe you might learn, but you might get stuck at the first hurdle. And then it's actually really interesting because there's people that are popping into the Discord saying that their answer to what you think does more harm than good in the long term actually is the just use rentals and don't
I was
team
gonna say we're gonna disagree on this one.
Yeah, which I think is so interesting because, and there's some great points to this too, but they say that it ends up with a bunch of players that don't know how to team build. And I feel like it's who's getting that advice, I think is actually like the biggest thing on whether it's harmful or whether it's useful. Because if Tang, who has had experience with like Pokemon and is doing doubles and getting into Draft League, I'm not going to be like, hey, Tang, you want to play VGC? Just use rentals, because you're more experienced than that. You might be newer to competing, but you're not necessarily new in a way, right? In comparison to someone who has just played through the mainline games, has maybe watched a broadcast and then wants to get into the game. You're starting at very different points. So that would be harmful advice to you. But for someone who's just been watching the broadcast, wants to go to a local, I actually think that is then helpful, because yet again, they can't pull up with this Pangoro team thinking that like you're going to do well, because they just don't understand like the inconsistencies of the game at that point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm on the complete opposite end here. My answer to this question is I think it's more harmful than helpful when you tell a new player. Now we're talking a new player. So that doesn't mean someone that doesn't know how Pokemon works and they don't know what typing any Pokemon is. It's just a new VGC player. They could have played the games forever. Like, a new player to me, when you tell them just use rentals and don't team build, I think that's the worst advice, because not for the reason you think it is. Because yes, they could go to their PC and use one of our OHKO rentals, which by the way, we really gotta get back on the train and make that Gouging Fire team so people can bring it to their PCs. But they could use one of our OHKO rental teams and play and get top 8 at their PC and feel happy about themselves. But they didn't improve as a player because they didn't learn how that team was built together. And importantly, for team building, when you're new to the game, I don't think team building is important so that like you can learn how to do it and make the best team ever. It's important for you to team build when you're a new player, because you have to learn why something isn't good. When I played in X and Y my first year, 2014, I had to learn why Meowstic was not good on my team. I had to learn why Choice Scarf Noivern was not a competitively viable option that was consistent for me to do well in VGC. So it's not that I learned things that were good. I learned what wasn't good and why. And then if you just, like, I take 2015, right? The year where you had Sylveon and Mega Gardevoir. They both had Pixelate, right? But there's clearly a difference. Sylveon is not taking up a Mega slot. Gardevoir has that Psychic typing, so it's got different weaknesses and whatnot. It's got 100 speed compared to 65, I think Sylveon's speed is. Like, so I built teams with Sylveon in it as my Fairy Pixelate, strong attacker, and I built teams with Mega Gardevoir on it. So I would learn the difference. Where if I just took Justin's rental team that had Mega Gardevoir on it, I would not have learned that skill on why those Pokemon perform differently, or one would be better on a certain team than that. So I think just in general, it's good for new players, even if you lose, to team build so you can learn why something is bad and why it isn't viable.
That's a really interesting take. I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
See, my thing is just like, because I do think that there is a point, yet again, that people need to be advancing on to learning how to team build, or at least like kind of get to that level. But VGC is such a complex game. It's like giving somebody a deck of cards and they're like, all right, well, just play the game at a good level. And like, you don't know what's like good or not. I even feel like that's just a bad analogy. But like with VGC, it's like, if I don't play a good team to start things off and understand, okay, this is how speed mechanics work, this is how like the damage works, that's protect, like all of these other things, then how am I going to know what to baseline team building off of, and how will I know what to base what is a good decision and a bad decision? Like, for example, when you're playing through like a mainline game, you don't have Protect on your stuff, you don't have Fake Out on your stuff, you're not really using status moves as much. But obviously all of these are really viable in VGC speed tiers, so you get to understand why it's important to be having that. And if you just like, because like when I started trying to play VGC, I literally did try to team build by myself. I had notebooks of like things written down about the Pokemon, but I had no clue about the meta, what was supposed to be good or not. I had no baseline off of it, and I fell flat on my face, and I couldn't understand why I was falling flat on my face. Whereas I feel like if I had spent a couple of days with there was no rentals at the time, but like a couple of different Pokepace and like figuring out, okay, well, this team I'm going up against is good because of this reason or because of these moves, then I have some sort of baseline to know what experience I should be heading into my team building with, which is, I think, where we get misaligned on things and where that kind of advice gets misconstrued, because I don't think it should be a forever thing. I think if you're learning how to play the game, like, rentals is to start.
Yeah.
If you hold on to that too long, then it will be detrimental. But I think like that's where like people should be starting, so that when they do want to pick up their Meow Stick, they understand why it's bad, as opposed to like, well, it's losing and I don't understand why. Because you might even have a good Pokemon, but put it with a bad team, and then you might think that that Pokemon's also bad. And you're just not actually setting anything up for success or yourself up.
Well, Tang, you got to break the tie here. What do you think? A new player comes to you. I've been playing Pokemon casually since Ruby and Sapphire, and I want to get into VGC. Which of our two perspectives would you tell them?
I don't know, because it is really tricky. Because I feel like as a newer player, like I think there's nothing wrong with playing rentals. I think rentals are a good start to a degree, because like oftentimes people who like win an event, they're gonna post their rental code and it's be like, why is this good? So if a newer player picks it up, they can try using good Pokemon to see how they work. But what a new player might struggle with is, well, they might think the good Pokemon are actually bad because they don't know how to play it. But you don't really know that until you kind of play around with it, because maybe there's certain parts you like of the rental that you can take to build with your own team. So I feel like there's certain parts where you can just use a rental and you can just make your own team from there. Because like I feel like I mean, I'm not like super new, but like when I was getting into Scarlet and Violet, it was my first time playing rugby. So naturally, my first thing to do getting into Scarlet and Violet, I had no experience basically with that VGC thing, was to try something out. And during the time, well, Wolf won Orlando, so I basically ripped off his pace for the most part. But then I didn't like the Screamtail, and I saw other people were using other ideas of it. People were replacing with Iron Hands, like I think Justin Burns and Neil did well at some locals and online tours. I'm like, I like this better. So I took that and I was playing around the rental, but I didn't like that one piece, and I took it out for another good piece. So that kind of helped with my team building aspect, and I did some moveset techs. With team building, I found that, well, from there, I'm not doing super well versus the mirror. And what's really good in the mirror, it's Safety Goggles, Swords, Iron Hands. And I didn't really know that without kind of testing more and more. And maybe a new player can't see that entirely, but I think as the more you play, sometimes you can pick up on certain meta trends and how to make a already polished team into your own team. So that's kind of what I did with a, I guess, quote unquote rental. So yeah.
I think too, like what's important to note too is I feel like the advice of just use rentals is like for people to not, like people will be like, oh, you can't think for yourself, which I think is also wrong. I think it's just like a good starting platform, right? And then make changes as you go and like as you learn. Like you didn't stick with Wolf's rental, you saw it and you tried it and you changed things and you thought and you became better. Which I think too, like that's a very important part of it, because that is very different than only ever use rentals and don't ever think and don't ever try, because that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
It is what some people mean, though. Like it's not what you mean.
There
are people
and
online.
like people that do mean that, I do think that those people are wrong, because eventually you do need to like let go of the hand that guides you, and you need to start thinking for yourself, because that is ultimately what's going to get you the furthest in the game.
Right.
Yeah, other people are like, oh, this player's good at the game, and they built this team. Therefore, since it's a good team, if you're good, you'll also do well with it. And I just fundamentally disagree with that perspective that we see a lot online. People say just use somebody else's really good team because it's clearly good. So
sometimes that really good team is just
So if you're a bad team builder, then you know what? It gotta be what it gotta be, because you know what? There is just some people that are not good at team building, and there is just gonna be teams that are out there that are gonna be better than what you make. And I think also being a good player is kind of recognizing like where you're falling short with things. If your team ain't it and you're holding on to it just because you built it as opposed to moving on to something better, I think it's a shortcoming.
Some of the best players are just professional team stealers. Like I'm gonna call out someone right now. You know, like people like Paul Chua, great guy, but man, he takes the best balance team he sees, he masters it and makes it his own. So it's basically his own team after he wins with it, which I respect. I respect the commitment, but you know, sometimes people just do that.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Chua catching strays.
Yeah,
but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But like the inspiration too that people will take from like, oh, they see someone else taking a team, they'll try it and they'll die. Like that is a normal thing. So like, again, where I think there's no, like nothing ever has to be 100% yours. You know, if you roll up to an event, like there's team building groups that like show up to events all with the same team. Like you really think everyone like always 100% equally contributed? Like no, sometimes somebody is playing someone else's team, and hey, sometimes that person does the best with it. Like just because you're using someone else's team doesn't mean that you're gonna be falling flat or worse off than someone who is building something. So
exactly.
Tang saying if he went to EUSC last year, it would have been Tang Palafin Balance winning, not Chua Palafin Balance.
No. You see, I'm only saying that because he did me dirty at MSS recently. I missed Air Slash on his like 10 HP Iron Hands, or like 10%, and that would have KO'd it, and I missed, so I lost in finals because of that.
I like how you said he did you dirty, like it wasn't the game doing you dirty.
No, it was him. It was all.
He personally made you miss.
No. I'm
he
just
had
kidding. I love
words
Paul.
with your torn.
Yeah, Paul's the best.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, we do need to wrap this. I so wish we could have had you on for longer, but unfortunately, Joe Brown has other commitments. He has other Justins to talk to, unfortunately.
Not again.
Yeah. So would love to have you back one day, but of course, for anyone who's listening, for people who are already fans or wanting to get to know a bit more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter, X, Unironic Panda. That's what I'm usually on, and I guess Discord too is Panda Wannabe. That's also what I'm on, and that's really it for now. We'll see what happens more in the future. But yeah, that's my socials.
Wait, hold on, real quick before we go, because I do have to go. I have to go see the Advent Children movie in theaters. So that's why I have. So, what on earth was the food that you posted the other day?
The food.
What was that?
That's a DiGiorno's pizza that I air fried. I left it in for like extra minute, I think, and yeah, it didn't turn out well. This was I don't know. I saw the post and I was like, oh wait, I had this pizza I made a year ago and I ate it all. It was not a good thing to do.
No,
I ate the burnt pizza.
I had to know what was going on there. And then other people started posting their own. So you're a trendsetter. Also, if you win EUIC, you got to pump those prices up. $10 more. You just got $40 an hour.
All right.
You need to convince them. Absolutely amazing. Hey, if you're an IC winner, don't worry. Check us out. But...
We'll see.
Justin, thanks again for joining us, and of course, anyone who's made it to this point in the podcast, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to riot below for a little bit more Justins. Maybe we can bring you back on with some other Justins, make y'all fight it out. But,
okay. I'll take that.
Meg. Make sure to be following on whatever social platform that you are listening to this podcast on, and hopefully you all have a great rest of your week. We will see you next week.